In my previous video, Conspiracy Theorists According to SMYLZ Part 1, I explained who conspiracy theorists actually are. I made the point that the popular perception of who conspiracy theorists are may not be the case for all conspiracy theorists. They're a mixed bag. I also pointed out that conspiracies don't have to be these overly complicated, elaborate schemes. They can be grossly simple in nature, and conspirators, they can be regular, average people. And with most conspiracies being very simple and more common than what most people realize, it doesn't take much for a person to become a conspiracy theorist. I even point out that most conspiracy theorists don't even recognize themselves as conspiracy theorists because of the perception of what most people think a conspiracy theorist is. But in my last video, I concluded by saying that even though there are many different types of conspiracy theorists, one of the things that they all have in common is that they want you, or whoever they're conversing with, to believe in the conspiracy theory they're trying to peddle. With that being said, how does one gauge the credibility of a conspiracy theorist? Is there a way to determine if a conspiracy theorist is being genuine, delusional, speculative, deceptive, or completely full of shit? Well, in this follow-up video, I'm going to tell you how I personally assess the credibility of a conspiracy theorist. Hi guys, I of course am the legendary SMYLZ, and this is Conspiracy Theorists According to SMYLZ, Part 2. As I explained in my previous video, what constitutes a conspiracy theory is if the conspiracy theorists cannot readily prove that the conspiracy they're trying to expose is true. The conspiracy is a suspicion, an intuition based on observation, or just some shit they pulled out of their ass. In either case, they can't prove it to be true. So, if the conspiracy theorists can't prove their conspiracy theory to be true, why would we believe them? How can we determine if the conspiracy theorist is genuinely onto something, or if they're just being delusional or deceptive? Well, allow me to go through all the factors I personally take into consideration when assessing the credibility of a conspiracy theorist. The very first thing I consider when assessing the credibility of a conspiracy theorist is the context of my encounter with the conspiracy theorist. Where did I encounter this person? Why are we interacting? How do we get here? Is this a person that I know personally? Is it a complete stranger, a friend, a co-worker? Is it a person of note, a person with a platform, a disgruntled whistleblower, the average common man, or a bum standing at the red light? The major factor in taking into account the context of the encounter is if the encounter is in person or if it's on social media. And each scenario has advantages that can add to their credibility. Of course, if the encounter with the conspiracy theorist is in person, I have the advantage of being able to read their body language and seeing their facial expressions and hearing the tone of their voice as they're sharing their conspiracy theory. To a perceptive person, being able to witness those little nuances can help determine if the conspiracy theorist is being genuine or not. Not necessarily if the conspiracy theory is credible, but if they genuinely believe the conspiracy theory. Now, if you're interacting with a conspiracy theorist on social media, you may not have that advantage of being able to read their body language or hear the nuances in their voices, unless it's a video call. But for the most part, if it's on a forum, chat room, message board, Twitter, X, or whatever, The advantage that a conspiracy theorist has on that platform is that they can readily share their material to those online. They can share a link, they can screenshot a chart, they can show you or send you the information that supports the case of their conspiracy theory. Now, I'm not saying that citing sources means that the conspiracy theory is automatically credible. But when a conspiracy theorist does cite their sources, it helps you understand their thought process. It helps you follow their logic of how they came to believe the conspiracy theory that they're trying to share. Another factor I take into account for the context of the encounter is my relationship with the conspiracy theorist. Is it somebody that I know personally? Is it a friend, a coworker, a family member? Now, just because the conspiracy theorist may be somebody I know personally, that doesn't automatically add to their credibility. But if it is somebody I know personally, I'm more inclined to entertain their conspiracy theory. I'm more inclined to show interest. I'm more inclined to let them finish their case just out of respect for the relationship. Now, if the conspiracy theorist is a complete stranger and we haven't developed a rapport, I'm less inclined to entertain the conspiracy theory, especially if it gets boring or senseless. I'll just tune out, change the subject, or remove myself from their presence. The last thing I take into account for the context of the encounter is how do we even get on the subject of the conspiracy theory? What was their approach? For me, a conspiracy theorist gains more credibility when we get into the conspiracy theory based on the direction of a conversation that we were already having. What I mean is, we were already talking about something else, and the natural progression of what we were talking about led them into their conspiracy theory as a result of the conversation. It was natural, it was organic, it wasn't forced. I get a little bit more skeptical when a conspiracy theorist opens the conversation with their conspiracy theory. It's the first thing they start talking about. It's top of mind, and they were eager to get to it. See, I'm not that passionate about conspiracy theories, so when I'm interacting with somebody that is, and they just jump right into it without setting the scene first, they can lose me. Okay, let me put it this way. Let's say you have two people that have different hobbies that they're passionate about. One person is passionate about sports, and another person is passionate about tabletop role-playing games. If these two engage in the conversation, and one of them opens the conversation about their passions, the other person may lose interest because that's not their passion. The best way to start a conversation is with something common and relatable, like the weather or the local news around that area. Develop a rapport, because a person is more likely to listen to someone talk about something that they're not personally passionate about if they develop a rapport with that person that they're talking to. Does that make sense? But my point is this: whether I encounter the conspiracy theorists online or whether it's in person, whether they're somebody I know or a complete stranger, they all have a shot to earn credibility in my eyes. It's just that some situations are harder than others, some are easier than others, all based on the context of the initial encounter. In my previous video, I explained that I break conspiracy theorists down into two categories. Those who are unaware that they are conspiracy theorists based on their perception of what they think a conspiracy theorist is, and people who are self-proclaimed conspiracy theorists who admit that they dabble in that conspiracy theorist bubble. For me, those who are unaware that they are conspiracy theorists have more credibility, because since they don't dabble in that conspiracy theory bubble, for them to believe a conspiracy is afoot, it's something genuine that they feel, something that they've observed for themselves, something that they suspect. They see something that's off, and their wheels start to turn without any outside influence. Now, for those who are self-proclaimed conspiracy theorists, it would take a little bit more for me to consider them credible because self-proclaimed conspiracy theorists can find a conspiracy in anything. Their minds are already calibrated to be able to find a conspiracy in everything, even if there are none. For most of them, whenever something newsworthy or significant happens, their very first instinct is to try to find the conspiracy within the happening, even before all the information and facts are concluded about the event. And here's the thing, some of their conspiracy theories may be true. It's just harder to believe them from a person that thinks everything is a conspiracy anyway. It's the bull who cried wolf effect. If they think that everything is a conspiracy, even the conspiracy theories that's been debunked, not too many people are going to believe them when they finally get one right. I do believe that some self-proclaimed conspiracy theorists may have some accurate conspiracy theories. It's just that their accurate conspiracy theories are mixed up with the conspiracy theories that's been debunked, and sometimes I don't feel like sorting that out. That's why I stated earlier, the thing that hurts the credibility of a self-proclaimed conspiracy theorist are other self-proclaimed conspiracy theorists. Another thing I take into consideration when assessing the credibility of a conspiracy theorist is why do they believe the conspiracy theory they're sharing with me? Or if they actually believe in the conspiracy theory they're sharing with me themselves. When I'm talking to a conspiracy theorist in person, I have the ability to interject questions, mid-conversations that help me pick their brain. And what I like to do is ask questions that help me follow their logic so I can start to understand how they come to believe the conspiracy theory that they're sharing with me. I'm trying to figure out what dots they've connected that led them to their belief. I find that most conspiracy theorists get really passionate when they share their conspiracies, and in doing so, sometimes they make these leaps or they skip over some key details or they gloss over some key points. They just want to get to the meat of the matter and they lose me. And what I like to do is I like to slow them down and ask, well, how did you get from here to there? Like, guide me through the process. I want to follow their logic. I want them to take me through their reasoning steps about how this one dot is connected to this other dot and they're seemingly unrelated. Like, how did we get from here to here? Walk me through that. If they're good at filling in the blanks and their reasoning is easy to follow, it adds to their credibility. Now, that's not to say that I'm going to buy into their conspiracy theory, but at least I understand why they believe in the conspiracy theory. If they're not really good at filling in the blanks, or if I can't follow their reasoning, it gives me the impression that they're good at making large illogical leaps. And when I ask questions that pokes holes in their conspiracy theory, sometimes I can see them gaining that understanding that what they believe in may not make sense either. They just want to believe it. They apply a kind of cognitive dissonance and they ignore all the gaps in logic. I've also come across self-proclaimed conspiracy theorists that don't really believe the conspiracy theories they're trying to peddle, usually online. These people are usually just scam artists, con artists, bot accounts, and they see the true believing conspiracy theorist community as a target, either for profit, maybe to play a prank, or to get their social media engagement numbers up. Like, they may write books about alien encounters but don't really believe in aliens themselves, or they might claim to be a whistleblower to get on 60 Minutes, or they may make up conspiracy theories that a true believing conspiracy theorist will fall for just so they can sell merch or go viral or go to one of these conventions or just for a prank. What I also consider when assessing the credibility of a conspiracy theorist is the likelihood of their conspiracy theory being true. I'll be completely honest with you. When it comes to assessing the likelihood of their conspiracy theory being true, it's completely based on my personal opinion. Completely biased. When I'm being told a conspiracy theory, I try to stay as open-minded as possible. I consider everything that they say. I consider all the information they give me. But I also take what they say, and I also take the information that they give me, and I run it through a filter of my own logic. And that filter of my own logic is based on my educational level, which isn't that high, my knowledge, and my life experiences. It's easier for me to believe a conspiracy theory when it has elements of things that I know to be true, things that I know are possible, things that I've witnessed, things that I've observed, things that I've experienced. I know that different people have different life experiences. And I know that there are people that have witnessed and experienced things that I've never witnessed and I've never experienced. And I know that there are people that know things that I probably don't even have the intelligence to grasp. So I can admit that when it comes to this part of assessing the credibility of a conspiracy theorist, it's completely unfair to the conspiracy theorists. But fuck them. It's up to them to make me believe. The last thing I take into consideration when assessing the credibility of a conspiracy theorist is, why are they sharing the conspiracy theory in the first place? What do they hope to accomplish? What's their motivation? What do they want me to do with the information that they're giving me? Well, here are the different motivations that I've personally come across. When it comes to personal conspiracy theories, like a person that believes they're being cheated on by their partner, or a person that believes that local government is making it harder for them to make a living, their motivation is that they're just venting frustration. They don't necessarily want me to do anything about it. They just want to be heard. In cases where the conspiracy theorist wasn't even planning on sharing the conspiracy theory, they may not have had a motivation. We were probably just having a conversation, and that conversation naturally progressed to them sharing their conspiracy theory. It wasn't necessarily a call to action. We were just talking, and the topic of the conversation led us to the conspiracy theory. That's harmless enough. Most conspiracy theorists I encounter, their motivation is self-gratification. Like, I guess it's a form of virtue signaling. Like, they get off on seeing the reaction of other people when they share this conspiracy theory. Like, they like to see the look on people's faces, like their look of confusion or their look of shock, their look of awe when they're breaking down a conspiracy. Like, they get off on that. They get off on feeling like intellectually superior because they just blew somebody's mind, or they knew something that this person didn't know. It's all about that feeling of glory. Now, we all know the motivation of the scamming conspiracy theorists. You know, they see the true believing conspiracy theorist community as a target. They can squeeze for profit. They can get them to buy their merch, buy their t-shirts, buy their books. They can get them to subscribe to their website or subscribe to their podcast. They can get their little 15 minutes of fame. They can play a prank on them. They can go viral. They can get their social media engagement up. The scamming conspiracy theorists are the ones that the true believing conspiracy theorists need to watch out for. Speaking of true believers, I believe that their motivations are actually genuine. These are your doomsday prepper types, or your religious fanatics. They believe that something catastrophic is in store for humanity, an extinction level event, maybe caused by a natural or celestial disaster, or maybe it's nuclear or biological or chemical warfare, or maybe it's the collapse of society that leads to martial law, or the rise of a tyrannical Orwellian government, or maybe it's the return of a religious deity that will bring about the end of the world as we know it. Whatever they believe is going to happen, they are genuinely trying to warn people so they can be prepared for it. When I consider all of those factors when assessing the credibility of a conspiracy theorist, I come away with one of these following thoughts. That conspiracy theorist made a lot of sense, and I believe their conspiracy theory may be true. That conspiracy theorist made a lot of sense, but I'm not sure if that conspiracy theory is true. I don't believe in their conspiracy theory, but I understand why the conspiracy theorist does. This conspiracy theorist is a fraud that's trying to sucker people into believing their conspiracy theory. And finally, this conspiracy theorist is completely delusional, and their conspiracy theory is unbelievable. I have a confession to make. I'm a conspiracy theorist. Now, I'm not a part of the conspiracy theorist community. Like, I don't get that obsessed or that passionate about conspiracy theories as they do. I really don't care that much about conspiracy theories. But there are some conspiracy theories that I do believe in. There are some conspiracy theories that I believe in, and I can't prove that they're true. There are some conspiracy theories that I don't really know to be true, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were. In my next video, Conspiracy Theorists According to SMYLZ, Part 3, I'm going to reveal the conspiracy theories that I believe in. Join me for that. I, of course, am the legendary SMYLZ, and this has been the second part of Conspiracy Theorists According to SMYLZ.